Okay, let's solve another triangle. But now we got a little bit different of a situation. So we're going to solve the triangle. We're still going to stick with rounding. 2 decimal places for sides, 1 decimal place for angles. Now on an exam, you can give me a exact answer. But in the homework, if it asks you to round, you have to round. So you got to pay attention to what it says underneath, because it can be really frustrating to do a whole problem and find out you're wrong just because you didn't punch it in the way it asks. And of course, they put the instructions below where you enter everything in. So just be mindful of that you need to round and pay attention to the rounding as you solve. So here we go. Now, can we see the difference from the last triangle? This one doesn't give us either one of the angles. And, so we're going to have to go get those 2 angles along with side C. But I think what might be a good idea would be to just go find side C first, right? Because we can use the Pythagorean theorem. So 2 squared plus 3 squared is equal to C squared. That's 4 plus 9 is equal to C squared. And 13 is equal to C squared. Therefore, C is equal to the square root of 13. But again, on an exam, you could leave that as your answer. I'd be fine with it. But in your homework, it's not going to accept that. You have to punch it into a calculator and round it. This goes against everything I stand for because I'm a math person. I'd rather just leave it exact. But now we're going 3.605. And 5 is bigger than, well, 5 is 5 or bigger. So we get rid of that. We got to take our 0 and move it up by 1. So there's our C. 3.61. Cool. Well, at least we have one of them. But now we have to find 2 more. Now, this is where inverses are going to come into play. Fortunately, we just finished up some of that. So let's get going. Now, we have a choice. A or B. It doesn't matter. I'm going to go with B because I see it better this way. And I look and I'd rather use the numbers that are given that aren't rounded, so that's why I'm only going to look at our opposite from that angle, and this is the adjacent. Aren't they? Yeah, that's the adjacent. That's the opposite from B. So we're like opposite, adjacent, opposite, adjacent, opposite, adjacent. Oh, that's tangent. So the opposite is 3. The adjacent is 2. Now, unlike prior times where if you're going to use an inverse, you got to pay attention. Is the number between this and this? And that, not now. All we do is we hit it with an inverse. All we do, sorry for minimizing it. And that's the way we get the angle out of the argument. This is going to unravel, and that just becomes the angle. The angle becomes inverse tangent of 3 over 2. Now we punch that into a calculator, and we get an answer. So you don't have to use tangent. Just real quick, we could have used the opposite over the hypotenuse and used sine. You could have used cotangent. You could have done the adjacent over that and used cosine. You just have to look and see which one's which. So inverse tangent of 3 over 2. And this gives us approximately 56.30 degrees. So that's just going to be 56.3 degrees. Well, I'm going to pop that in so I can see it. Oops. 56.3 degrees. Well, at this point, once we have one of those angles other than the right angle, we can just go solve for A by just subtracting it from 90. Because we know that A plus 56.3 degrees must equal 90 degrees. So we just subtract over and we go, oops, 90 minus 56.3, and we get 33.7 degrees. So we can either replace it for our answer, all that nonsense, or we can just highlight or circle, highlight, whatever it is you do. So we have, there's our 3 pieces of information, and we have the thing solved. So we're going to use these facts of just solving a triangle with no words added. We start with that. Like, let's just see if we can't solve triangles, get good with it. It's the same. I've shown you the 2 processes. The numbers may be different, but it'll always kind of work out the same way. But soon we're going to start attaching words to it. So if we're struggling with this, we're going to really struggle with the word problems, because not only do you have to interpret what it's saying and draw yourself a picture, you also have to do this at the end, and this is kind of the game. So, all right, there we go. Next time we're going to bring in some words and see what we can do. All right, see you.